EAFC 24's beta is over. It ends August 30th, which is actually today. So here are 5 of the biggest positives of the beta so far. Now, a couple things to note. One, this is the beta. The game is not going to be the same. They're going to make some tweaks and some changes. And 2, even when the game comes out, they're going to continue to make changes to pro clubs over the next few months. So the game, when it comes out September, pro clubs will not be the same in December, for example. So these are just positives from the beta. Some of these may change, so we'll just have to see how they go. These are my positives. This is my list. So these may not be positives in your mind, and you may have other things that are better than these, but these are just my 5 positives from the beta so far. Number 1, step over speed boosting seems to be basically nerfed at this point. As anyone knows who has played FIFA 23 in foot or pro clubs, speed boosting was a major part of the game. Step over speed boost was the easiest and quickest way to pull it off, so that was what people did. It became the meta for the last few months, and it was basically unbearable because everyone did it all the time at any position anywhere. So you would just see it 1,000 times a game, and personally I hated it. It was annoying, but it seems like EAFC 24, it has been pretty much nerfed. There is a slight speed boost, but is not anywhere near as much as it was in FIFA 23. So therefore, when people have been doing it in EAFC 24 beta, it has not been that significant, and people have stopped doing it. Now, this could change. Obviously, they could change. Like I said, they could tweak it. They could make it more significant when the actual game comes out. But for right now, it seems like step over speed boost, and speed boosting in general has been basically nerfed. Number 2, tackling is much improved, at least in my mind. As somebody who plays DM and CB, those are my main positions. Tackling is obviously pretty important to me. In FIFA 23, you didn't need to hit B. B is obviously the tackle button. You didn't need to hit B a lot of the time, especially in your own box. You wouldn't hit B, you just basically walk into people and the game would auto tackle. That is pretty much gone as far as I've seen in my experience. Walking into people doesn't even get the tackle animation necessarily anymore. You have to actually hit B. Not only that, but you have to hit B and time your tackles very well. In FIFA 23, you wouldn't necessarily have to time it perfectly. If you were off by, a half a second or so, you would still get a good animation and get the ball most of the time. In the beta, you have to be much better at timing your tackles and tackling in general. So the skill gap has increased a bit. You can't just spam B as well to get good tackles. You have to make your challenges much more realistic. You have to actually be good at tackling and time it well to get a good tackle off and recover the ball. Number 3, as somebody who also plays CB, it seems like you no longer have to play 6'7". So obviously 6'7" is the tallest you can be as a player. The meta, basically every center back in a 3-back or in a 4-back would, for the most part, have to play 6'7", max height, to counter any possible striker for the other team. Now, many strikers wouldn't play tall. Most strikers would play very, very short, 5'8", whatever, for speed and agility and dribbling. But every now and again, you come up against a tall striker. So therefore, just to counteract any possibilities, you'd have to play 6'7". This is kind of, everyone knows this. But it seems like in the beta, that's not necessarily how it's going to go. For the most part, many center backs were 6'4". 6'4" is a much more realistic height for a center back. It's kind of like the average 6'3", 6'4", 6'2", in that range. So it seems like you don't necessarily have to play max height anymore, which I'm very excited about. Heading seems to be somewhat easier for center backs as well. So with those two things, obviously, if you come up against a 6'7" striker in another team, you're going to be in a rough time. But it seems like the tall striker possibility isn't there anymore. It's kind of, you're going to be struggling if you're playing a tall striker. So it seems like for the first time in as long as I can remember, center backs may actually be able to play a shorter build than 6'7", which is very exciting because it changes the meta for center backs for the first time in literally maybe a decade. All right, number 4, passing. Passing is much improved, and I feel like much more important. So far, creating triangles. This has to do also with the play styles. There's a lot more, obviously you have the regular play styles, playstyle pluses, a lot more passing play styles. This also has to do with that. But passing seems to be much more important, a lot more smooth as far as I can see. And it also has to do with the weight of the players, but that's also number 5, so I'm not going to get too much into it. But passing is much more important. It feels much better. A lot of people had complaints about passing in FIFA 23, unrealistic, just balls just not going where they're aiming and whatnot. More complaints. Passing seems to be smoothed out a bit more. It's like I said, I think it's much better so far in the beta than it was in FIFA 23, and it seems to be much more important. Like I said, with number 1, because speed boosting is basically gone, you can't just run past people all the time. Passing becomes much more important as the main way to get through teams, because you can't speed boost. You're gonna have to actually develop the play, build up, and actually make passes to get through people. So automatically, because speed boosting is not as significant as it was, passing is much more important, and it seems to be much better so far. Number 5 is kind of 3 things in one, but it's basically the weight and physics of players is much better. Chase down perk is gone, and these 2 things combine to make bundles much less prevalent in the game. So basically, if you played FIFA 23, you would know that the weight and physics of players' movement, body movement, wasn't really realistic with the addition of stuff like speed boosting and the chase down perk, just everyone kind of running heads, chickens with their heads cut off towards the ball. Bundles would occur. This seems to be much less prevalent with the fact that the weight of players is much more realistic. Your player has real weight now, so you can't just like change direction super quick. Chase down is gone, so you can't just like speed up for no reason after you lose the ball. And because of this, bundles seem to be less prevalent in the game. As a defender, you could ask any other defender, but bundles suck. We hate bundles, okay? Bundles happen all the time. And with the chase down perk, it was really, really bad, and unrealistic physics, ball flying any direction possible, unrealistic. Really hated it. So it seems like they've worked a lot with the weight, and especially with the physics of how the players move and interact and how the ball works. I know they added many more animations into the game. Maybe that has a small part to do with it, but it seems like overall the weight of players feels much better. It's much more realistic. The physics is much better. It's not many unrealistic animations and movements. Chase down perk is gone, and those 2 things culminate in bundles being much less frequent so far. All right, guys, so those are the 5 big positives so far. Like I said, these things could change. They could tweak these things when the game comes out. They could be all gone, and of course, when the EA makes updates to pro clubs, as they always do, things could obviously change. But right now, if they stay how they are in the beta, these are 5 really good things that I want to see when EAFC comes out later in September. Hope you guys enjoy. Let me know what you guys think. Are they positive? So I'm sure some people are not happy about speed boost going away, basically, because it was a large part of meta offensive players was speed boosting by. So I know people are upset about that. I want to see your top 5 list, or I'm gonna find your IP address and come to your house. All right, guys, thanks for watching.